simply brilliant at Wrigley Field.
Swinging a high fly ball, deep center field. Herrera back on the track, and did he make the catch? He fell down, and he's got it. He's got it. Odubel Herrera has got it, and Cole Hamels has a no-hitter.
13 Ks, just 2 walks on the Phillies Radio Network. They beat the Cubs 5-0. Johnny Cueto was on the verge of getting dealt, and then he decided to do his own dealing. He throws 8 innings of shutout ball, had 5 Ks, Reds 5-2 winners over the Colorado Rockies. Chris Sale went 7 full, had 7 Ks. White Sox beat the Tri-Bucks 10-3. Royals 2-1 winners in 10 over the Astros. Alex Rodriguez 3 home runs for the Yankees, and they beat the Twins by a score of 8-5. For a complete scoreboard, head over to foxsports.com.
AFF Eagle. Anything else is like having Fruit Loops. Serving America's best.
And higher levels of interferon. Ribavirin is an oral guanosine nucleoside analog given twice daily. Together, these represent the only as well as the most effective therapies. The consensus panel of NIH looked at 3 pivotal trials. It's important to know when you look at the patients enrolled in these studies, it's a relatively homogeneous population. 95% were Caucasian. Yet I already told you that in the United States, there are very high rates among African Americans. And there are some that suggest they don't respond as well to treatment. In addition, they were screened very closely for comorbid diseases. So they don't apply to patients, for example, with psychiatric disease or active drug and alcohol use. Nonetheless, these represent the best data we have available. The 3 studies I'll go through in some detail. The first, PEG interferon alpha 2B, sold now under the trade name PEG-Intron and Ribavirin. This study, published by Michael Mons in The Lancet nearly 2 years ago, randomized 1,530 patients to either standard Monday, Wednesday, Friday interferon plus Ribavirin at standard doses, 1,000 and 1,200 milligrams daily. The arm up top got what's called induction dosing. High-dose PEG interferon for 4 weeks, then a lower dose plus standard Ribavirin dosing. The middle arm is the FDA-approved dosing for this regimen. PEG interferon alpha 2B, 1.5 micrograms per kilogram, that is, based on body weight, plus a lower dose of Ribavirin. Now, those of you who do clinical trials will note that they change 2 variables, the interferon dose and the Ribavirin dose. As I'll talk about, that may have been a mistake. But these are the data that led to FDA approval. Genotype 2 and 3 is extraordinarily responsive to these therapies. Regardless of regimen employed, the sustained virologic response rate was nearly 80%. Among those with genotype 1, achieved lower response rates. 42% achieved in those with genotype 1 taking PEG interferon at the higher dose plus Ribavirin compared to 33 and 34%. Now, when you combine these two, you come up with an overall response rate. But when you're talking to a patient, the overall response rates are really meaningless. The standard of care today is to get genotype and quote response rates based on what genotype the patient carries. Based on these data, this drug was approved for the treatment of patients with hepatitis C. Now, a second study, published by Michael Fried in the New England Journal of Medicine just a few months back, it's similar, but a few differences I want to highlight. They have one arm that's the same. Standard interferon Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week, plus standard Ribavirin. They compare this to PEG interferon, a fixed dose, 180 micrograms, plus placebo. This study will demonstrate the need for Ribavirin. PEG interferon plus high-dose Ribavirin, the standard dosing 1,000, 1,200, not the 800 used by Michael Mons and colleagues. And these are the data obtained. Now, again, you see the differences in genotype. Genotype 2 and 3, 76% with PEG interferon Ribavirin, and 46% for genotype 1 with PEG interferon alpha 2A plus Ribavirin, leading to its approval for this indication. But one of the reasons why I like to think about this study is what the absence of Ribavirin does. Now, at the end of treatment, 59% of the PEG interferon alone patients had a negative hepatitis C viral load. That is, they were end-of-treatment responders. But after stopping therapy, 50% relapsed, and the overall response rate was 21% versus 46 and 45 versus 76. Ribavirin has a critical role in preventing relapse, and Ribavirin should be used unless absolutely contraindicated. We'll talk about some of those contraindications. The one that's absolute is pregnancy. The other problem is anemia, and we'll talk a little about strategies to manage that. Now, another study that defined how we treat hepatitis C today looked at 24 weeks versus 48 weeks, for those patients with genotype 1, 2, and 3, it also looked at that low dose versus higher dose ribavirin. This study has not yet been published. The data demonstrated that for those infected with genotype 2 or 3, 24 weeks of treatment, that is about 5.5 months, is adequate, with response rates of nearly 80%. Equally as important, 800 milligrams of ribavirin, or 4 capsules daily, was as effective as higher doses. The importance of this is that 24 weeks of therapy with low-dose ribavirin is a fairly tolerable treatment. In fact, the dropout rate was only 3% in this arm. Thus, we have very effective therapy for this group. Now, for genotype 1, the story is a bit different. 24 weeks did not perform as well as 48 weeks. And higher dose ribavirin appeared to be critically important. 51% of patients getting higher dose ribavirin for 48 weeks had sustained virologic response. Thus, the standard of care today is genotype 2 or 3, 24 weeks, lower dose ribavirin. Standard care for genotype 1 is 48 weeks with higher dose ribavirin. So, clearly, genotype has evolved to have an important role in managing patients. Now, one of the problems with higher dose ribavirin is the development of a dose-dependent hemolytic anemia. When you give ribavirin, it's taken up into RBCs. The red blood cells are then marked for destruction in the RES, and there's a brisk dose-dependent hemolysis. What you see within 4 weeks of starting combination therapy is about a 2.5 gram hemoglobin drop. Some patients, about 10% of them, 5 grams of hemoglobin in the first 4 weeks. Interferon suppresses bone marrow. So one of the big problems with treatment and the use of ribavirin is anemia. One of the things that we've learned through randomized controlled trials is that EPO is effective in reversing interferon and ribavirin-induced anemia. Now, you might think it wouldn't work in the setting of hemolysis since it stimulates the bone marrow to make more red blood cells. In patients randomized to receive EPO at the 40,000 IU sub-QQ week, a 2.9 gram increase in hemoglobin compared to standard of care. What's important in this group is they were also able to take more ribavirin. So EPO sustained both hemoglobin, but also sustained ribavirin dosing, and is hypothesized to lead to higher sustained virologic responses. The downside to this is extra cost. EPO is not a cheap drug, neither is peg interferon alpha 2A or 2B plus ribavirin. Now, what's really driving treatment today is side effects. I mentioned one of them associated with ribavirin. But if you told a patient, I've got a medication that has a 50% chance of eradicating your virus, why wouldn't someone want to take that medication? It seems like a no-brainer. Well, the reason is because of toxicity. And most of the patients I see have already been to the internet or read the package insert for these drugs, which can be quite a daunting experience. But I think the side effects can be broken down really into several buckets, if you will. The first is a flu-like symptom in the first 3 to 4 shots. Patients have high fever up to 102, muscle aches and joint aches. These tend to resolve after the first month due to tachyphylaxis and can be treated with ibuprofen or acetaminophen. What's probably more daunting is fatigue. As many as 75 to 80% of patients complain of fatigue. They have difficulty doing the things they need to do, although most patients are able to work. The next category is interferon brain effects. Interferon does cause depression, it causes insomnia, it causes an irritability that's almost universal. People get a bit cranky, at least in part from being fatigued, but in part due to the effects on the brain. These effects do respond to serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and insomnia can be treated with things like trazodone. I would not recommend the use of things like Ambien or benzodiazepines. They don't work very well in this context. But between fatigue and neuropsychiatric effects, that accounts for the reason why most people in the treatment are very glad that their treatment course has been completed. There are other effects worth mentioning. One is alopecia. About a third of patients have hair thinning. They do not go bald, but the thinning of their hair. There is also neutropenia and thrombocytopenia. Now, neutropenia is common, as many 20% of patients go below 750 ANC. That can be treated with G-CSF. Thrombocytopenia is only an issue in cirrhotic patients, but sometimes limits therapy.